When you think of sports, what do you think of? Do you picture a person running a marathon? Two people playing a game of tennis? Or maybe a group of people playing basketball? Maybe you picture a man scoring a goal into the football net? Or a woman striking a pose in yoga? Sport, at its most basic, is movement and physical ability. It's something that supports our physical and mental and social health and provides a platform for us to enhance our life skills. Sports provides a place where people of different ages, gender, religion, culture, sexuality can come together and unite over teamwork and shared love of a sports team. Sports is something that we should all be engaging in. But have you noticed that sometimes sports is inaccessible to some of us? Why is there a divide in sports? Earlier, when I asked you to think of sports, would a female motorcar racer or a male ballerina have immediately crossed your mind? Stereotypes are pervasive in sports. It's still primarily a male domain. Children from disadvantaged backgrounds frequently have less access to resources and venues to participate sports in. The elderly and people with chronic conditions often don't meet the physical activity levels suggested by the World Health Organization. It pains me when I think of this, because I think everyone should have the opportunity to engage in sports and reap the benefits that it can bring to them. As a child, I loved playing sports, and I loved being outdoors. My parents were mostly very supportive of me, but they were cautious of me playing sports like rugby and athletics. I could figure skate, but I was discouraged from ballet. Kicking a ball around with my cousins was normal, but I was also told that football isn't for girls and that it would make me short. I loved running around, hopping, skipping, like many kids do. But if I came home with cuts and bruises from falling over, I was told that I was careless. Needless to say, playing sports was sometimes quite confusing for me. The sports field was where I most felt like myself. It's where I formed many of my friendships. Watching sports has given me many conversational points with my dad, and playing sports is my outlet. It helps me channel my inner competitiveness and pushes me to think about my own self-development. And as I've gotten older, I've begun to engage in sports differently through coaching and development. I started a nonprofit that champions sports for women and girls. Engaging in sports brings me purpose and fulfillment, and I know the transformative power of sports. And I also know the barriers that society erects to keep people from accessing sports. From speaking to many women and girls at the nonprofit, I know why sports are important to them. Sports are part of who I am. Sports keeps me grounded. Sports has taught me how to be compassionate and how to be supportive of other people. Sports has taught me discipline, which I've applied in my professional career, and I can see the same thing happening for my daughter. Through sports, my daughters learn that they may not be good at something right away, but the real lesson is that it takes time and practice, and they must learn to deal with frustration and disappointment. And data supports why women and girls should engage in sports. The research shows that girls who participate in sport are likelier to report higher levels of confidence, are likelier to believe that they're smart enough for their dream career, and less likely to want to change their body image. Plenty of research shows that playing sports helps us build skills like perseverance, time management, communication, and teamwork. I started out by encouraging more women and girls to engage in sports, and I continue to be a huge proponent of this. And over time, I've come to realize that sports are a powerful tool for economic empowerment and for fostering a diverse and inclusive society. Can you recall a time when you walked past a public sports field in Hong Kong? Did you see more men and boys than women and girls playing sports? If your answer is yes, that's not so surprising. Research in Hong Kong shows that there are more teenage boys than teenage girls engaging in sports as an extracurricular. Global research shows girls drop out of sports at twice the rate of boys. If you're a woman and a girl, maybe you can relate to why. Were you told to concentrate on your studies and not to play so much? Were you made to feel like you don't really belong on the sports field, perhaps jeered at for making a mistake, or told that you're too muscular, too rough, or too a tomboy? Or maybe you were told that you don't behave like a girl. For me, my own mom sometimes joked that she had given birth to a son and not a daughter because I was so active. In 2018, at the nonprofit, we launched a survey that uncovered that 2/3 of our respondents feel women and girls face more challenges than men and boys when accessing sports. Some reasons among many: physical challenges, sexism, not being supported or having the resources to engage in sports, and the need to prioritize family. Mothers, in particular, felt they have no time and is not prioritized among the list of responsibilities that they have. Other stories that we've heard from a high school student: there's a boys' team, but not a girls' team for the sport I want to play in. I either have to change sports or I have to play with the boys, but because they do tend to be taller and bigger than me, I am more conscious about my safety. From an international school student, I heard, the boys get better and more field times, but our performance in competition is just as good. And from a local school student, I once heard, because there are more boys playing sports, the boys will play on school grounds after classes are over, but her and her school friends will go to a different district and on the weekends. And not to mention that women and girls in sports frequently are less visible in media and public domains. There's less investment and resources going into supporting women and girls' sports. Women athletes are frequently paid less than their male counterparts, and there are fewer women in leadership positions in the sports industry. It's not right that sports are prioritized for men and boys, not when sports supports our health and our professional development. 3/4 of C-suite respondents to an EY research indicated that a background in sports can accelerate a woman's career. This past year, as gyms and sports facilities closed, did you find yourself participating in online workouts? Maybe you have fast enough internet and space at home to lay out some equipment or a mat. But can you imagine how this type of virtual interaction would work for families living in subdivided units? It's impossible. COVID-19 may have shone a light on inequality, but the divide is deeply rooted. Research has shown that children from low-income families are likelier to feel deprived of the opportunity to participate in sports. And given how academics are important, when families have extra resources, they're likelier to prioritize tuition. Sports are merely a nice to have. And other barriers: cost of equipment, cost to get to venues, and the cost of the venue itself. And the situation is even harder for low-income ethnic minority families, where it's not just cost that can be prohibitive, but there are also language and cultural barriers and fewer opportunities for them to engage in sports that meet their preferences. And what about for individuals who have different intellectual and physical abilities? Hong Kong has some medal-winning Paralympians, but the general perception is still that people with disabilities shouldn't or can't engage in sports. And as such, there are also very few opportunities for them. But regardless, playing sports and engaging in sports provides young people with the opportunities to practice resilience, overcome challenges, and build social and emotional skills that support them for life. It shouldn't be that only those with the resources to access sports who get to do so. This divide cannot continue to propagate, and the gap will only keep widening without our collective action to address these issues. And not to mention the intergenerational effect that lack of sports has. I've witnessed that families with lower sports competence and literacy are generally less equipped to teach their children skills, such as foundational, functional, and coordination movements, which are important for sporting skills and in turn nurture health and sporting interests. Globally, sports is recognized as an enabler for sustainable development, whether it's for improving our health, reducing disease, for poverty alleviation, achieving gender equality, or for building sustainable and resilient communities. In Hong Kong, especially in recent years, the recognition of sports' contribution to enhancing our livelihoods has certainly increased, but it's still not enough. And together, we must continue to promote sports, activate people to get physically active, and grow the sporting culture and ecosystem. And we must do so in ways that promote equity in sport. Here are some of my suggestions. To encourage more moms to engage in sports and help overcome their perception that they don't have time, organize family-friendly activities such as Mothers and Daughters Sports Days, which promote fun and inclusion, can bring in women as coaches and role models, but also enhance family bonds. To support girls to overcome the challenges they feel when accessing sports, provide leadership and training programs that help them build not just sporting skills, but skills that are transferable to the workplace, skills such as coaching, marketing, finances, and budgeting, and pair them with athletes as mentors who can support and elevate them. And together, we can build a community of change makers and girls who can advocate for themselves. To make sports more for all, partner with, donate to, fund, volunteer at philanthropic and nonprofit organizations and provide more sporting opportunities, especially in low-income neighborhoods. By providing traditional to niche sports at free or affordable rates, we can alleviate the financial burden on families and also expose children to the variety of sports that are available and nurture their sporting interests. And corporates such as banks and real estate companies can invest into upgrading facilities or providing more venues for people to engage in sports. And just as there are schemes such as a school textbooks allowance or a student travel subsidy scheme, there can be more schemes to provide scholarships or subsidies for sports participation. When women and girls and young people tell me how much they love playing sports, it's not fair that they have trouble accessing what they love. When we teach sports, we see countless smiles on people's faces, whether they are running, warming up, hopping in and out of an agility ladder, high-fiving their friends. It doesn't matter if they're young or old, a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, speaks a different language or has a different skin color. Sports are fun. Sports are empowering. And sports is for everyone. I envision a world where everyone has the opportunity to engage in sport of their choice. And I'm playing a role to make sports more equitable in Hong Kong. And will you join me?